Hey everyone, Rob here, and thanks for joining me again for this table and part 2. At this point you can see that I'm getting ready to install the C channels, and the C channels that I'm using I got from a place called Fractal Design, and they're in London, Ontario. Great guys, helped me out, chatted for quite a while, and I was very happy with the C channels. Very strong steel. So what I do is I mark down where the C channels are going to be installed, and then with the router I'll place the bit right on the line, and then I'll make some marks on the side of it. And with these marks I know exactly where I'm going to put down the painter's tape, and then I put the painter's tape on the piece of wood, and then I use a bit of CA glue and the activator on the other side. So once I got that glued down, I then just have to put my router there, lower it, and pull it towards me. And I do it in 3 passes. I just don't want to do it all in one shot because that's a lot for the router to handle in just one pass. One thing I have to admit is I love how a router can create that channel, and it's so perfect, so straight. Onto the actual C channel. So what I do is I lay them in, and then from there I just take a center punch, and with a hammer I'll just make a mark so I know exactly where to drill my holes for my Rampa inserts. First I drill a guide hole just to make sure that I have a nice clean hole, and my 10.5mm drill bit will follow that hole because it takes the path of least resistance. So as you can see, I have a piece of green tape on my drill bit, and that tells me to go down to that point and not further because I don't want to have an accident and maybe go drill too far deep and have a hole then on the other side of the wood. And there I'm just taking a countersink tool and making like a V groove in it, so that this way when I put the Rampa bits in, it's easier to get them in. They follow into that hole perfectly. So what I do for my Rampa bits is I put a little bit of CA glue on them, because I want to make sure that if in the future I have to remove these C channels for some reason, that I can remove them and the Rampa bit's not going to come out with the actual screw. Now if you're wondering why do people put C channels in tables like this, I'll explain. So when you have a big slab of wood, especially a piece of maple, they'll tend to cup. And if you look at the picture on the right hand side, you'll see a table that is cupped. Basically it warps. Those C channels make sure that that piece of wood stays straight. After all the C channels installed, I will then go ahead and start installing the legs. Now of course I install them, I mark them out and everything because I'm going to use Rampa bits for them as well, but I'm not going to leave them on because finishing the table with the legs on would be very difficult. But I lay everything out, and as you can see I'm using those X legs, and they have that center bar across from them. I'm kind of like a farmer style actually table, it's considered. So I put them all together, and what I do is I measure out left, right, and all that to make sure that they're exactly dead center. And once I've got them dead center, I then turn around and then draw with a pencil around the base of it, where the actual table is. And what I'm going to do there is then take a router bit and go 1/8 of an inch deep. And this way, when those legs are installed, what's going to happen is they're going to countersink into the table the equivalent of how thick they are. So it's just a kind of a nice thing to do, and just kind of looks nice if you're looking under the table. But of course, how many people really are looking under the table? Now I didn't do them for the C channels, and that's because the C channels are a lot deeper. They go in I think it's a 1/2 inch, and I didn't want to do the 1/2 inch plus another 1/8 of an inch because it's maple, and I feel more comfortable to leave it as thick as I possibly can. Moving ahead with the project, I just go ahead and of course I drilled the pilot holes, and then from there drilled the 10.5mm holes and installed the Rampa bits. And as you can see, it's countersunk 1/8 of an inch. The lines weren't exactly straight, and that's because I had to do it freehand because the C channels were actually in the way. But once I've done all that, I'll take the legs off, and I will flip the table over and start filling all the little cracks. So one thing you're going to notice is that if you ever pour resin and sand it, you're going to have some micro bubbles here and there. And so what I do is I just mix up a little dab of clear resin, and I'll just dab it in there and let it dry and cure. And then once it's cured, I start to sand. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me sand because, God, I hate doing it, and I'm sure you hate watching it because I hate watching it. But, of course, same as always, left to right, 1 inch per second at the most, speed-wise, and then overlapping up and down, again, 1 inch per second and not faster. Once I get to about the 150-ish or 180-ish, I will do my roundover. Now, I chose a roundover for this table because I just thought it looked better than a chamfer. And so I take a little piece of the table, and I'll do a roundover, and I'll increase it a little more until I get exactly the amount of roundover I like. And then from there, I'll just go around the whole table where there are 90-degree edges, and then this way they will be rounded over so that it's comfortable if people touch it. Now, as for the live edge side, I don't touch anything there. Once all that's done, I start sanding. As you can see here, I go now from 400 all the way to 7,000. And once I've done that throughout the whole table, I then start buffing. And as you can see here, I'm using a buffer, and I've now started using a car polish. Actually, it's a hard cutting car polish, which is what you use on paint to correct paint, and it makes it come out perfect. Once all that's done, it's time to finish the table. Now, what I do is flip over the table and do the bottom first, and then flip it over and then do the top. But I like to use Osmo Polyx. It's a great product. I've been using it for quite a while, and I've never had a complaint with it. So what I do is I just take a 3M white pad, and I just dip it in and slowly work it all the way around the table. And I won't wipe it off right away. I'll let it sit there, and I'll just slowly keep going with that pad to any areas where it's soaking up the Osmo Polyx. So, and I'll just keep going over it and keep going over it until it's not sucking in any more of that Polyx. And then once I've got all that done, I know that I can start to take off the excess on it. Now, I always do at least 2 layers, and sometimes up to 4 layers depending on how the wood is. Now, for this table, I did do 2 layers, and it was perfect, and it wasn't taking in anymore, so I knew that it was sealed and good to go. Now, the one thing to know about these wax finishes is that they're not cured instantly. They take up to a month before they're fully cured. So you really got to be careful in the first month what you're doing to the table. Now, usually when I do a table like this, I'll even keep the piece with me for the month so that this way I know when I'm delivering it, it's cured and ready to go. So after you got the Polyx on and you've done your first coat, you've got to buff it and remove any excess wax on it. You have to do it for the second coat as well. But here I am. I take 2 pads, and what I do is first one is I rub off the excess Polyx, and the other one is buffing. As you can see there, the end result is beautiful. My favorite day, delivery. So bringing that in, that weighed about 300 pounds, and it was heavy. I was absolutely dying. And Alex there was helping me out, and I could tell he was struggling a bit himself. And I don't blame him because I couldn't wait to get that thing down. So we get it down, and there I go, start putting on the table legs and just getting ready for the customer to be able to see it all together finally after waiting 3 months for this piece. And one thing to know about me is I don't rush anything. If it takes me 3 months, 4 months, it takes what it takes, and you get the product that you deserve. Hey, if you enjoy my videos or if you're getting some good knowledge out of it, if you can like and subscribe, it would really help me out. And just one more thing I'd like to say. Just want to say a special thank you to my buddy Keith, who always helps me out whenever I gotta move a piece of wood like this or do anything. He's always there for me. Thanks, buddy. And now, the final. Here it is. Flip it over and the customer gets to see it for the first time.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
do you polish that?
I bought a polisher to do this, and special cutting compounds that are actually for car paint.
Yeah.
And then I pour it, sanded it up to about 7,000. Thank you. And then after that, I started polishing.
This looks like glass, is it?
It's resin.
Oh yeah.
So it's like liquid when you pour it.
Oh yeah. And then it goes,
So the hard thing about it is to make sure when you pour it,
yeah.
you don't have any leaks, because it's like water, it'll just run everywhere.
Oh yeah. No, it's lovely.
I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.